Hey, how you doing?
And I can hear you. How is everything with you?
Good. Yeah, good, thank you. How about you?
Everything is good. You've been busy.
Good. Yeah, it's very busy. So yeah, got a little bit of time off now actually before the next Dragonforce tour, which is good.
Yeah, that's good. And let's talk about Starbound Stories, which is your
Mhm.
first solo record. When did you start plotting the writing for the album?
So that actually started pretty much during 2020, during the pandemic, because I was on tour with Dragonforce and the tour got cancelled halfway through because they were closing all the venues. So we had to come home and basically had about 6 months or even more, probably more like a year of nothing to do. So that's kind of when I approached Shazdi, the keyboard player, and I said, I've got this song I'm working on. Can we see what we can do together? And then he's like, oh, check out these songs. And yeah, next thing you know, we made it into a proper album, but it wasn't really planned. It just kind of happened.
You took advantage of the pandemic to create something that, you really wanted to make.
Yeah, exactly. I think we used the time well because we could
Yeah.
have just been sat there playing video games, which is what I wanted to do. But instead we did this. So yeah.
And speaking of video games are a big inspiration, especially the soundtracks of the video games. But anime, and Japanese culture, it's very influential on this record. When you started, when you had the ideas for the songs, you always had that concept in mind that you want to write something connected with that.
Yeah, I think the pretty much the first thing I said when it came to what we're aiming for, it was basically like power metal, but injected with all these Japanese influences and video game influences, and power metal that captured the spirit of like an anime opening song. So which is basically just saying power metal, but more over the top and more uplifting and happy. So that was pretty much the objective when we set out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the thing about the Japanese. They have, obviously there is, they go from very happy to the most extreme
It's
bloody
true.
stuff that you can
Yeah.
imagine. But one of the things is always the music is always very present with what they do. When do you became a fan of anime and the Japanese culture in general?
So I'd say that I'm not really a fan of actual anime. Like I have actually started watching more recently, funnily enough. But before the album came out, I was only sort of familiar with a few of the older ones, like Dragon Ball Z, Cowboy Bebop, and like Studio Ghibli movies, those kind of things. But I've never been like an anime like enthusiast or anything. But I kind of fell in love with the culture and as part of that, obviously the music came through. But in probably around about 2012 ish, like the first time I went to Japan, I think that's kind of when it all hit me because as a kid, I was playing all these games, not really thinking, oh, this is a Japanese game. But funnily enough, all the games I liked were from there. So when I finally went there, I was like, ah, it all kind of makes sense now. Like, yeah, it's just I think that they have a different way of approaching music and a different way of approaching storytelling, which is just something that I think is really endearing. And I wanted to bring that across into sort of like the Western power metal.
One of the things that I find about Japanese, it's they have no, I won't say shame of anything. They're really not worried about, what I think sometimes here especially now here in the West, we kind of worry too much what other
Mhm.
people say or might think of whatever. And what I find about the Japanese culture, it's really they really don't care about any of that. If
Yeah.
heavy metal, it can be like flamboyant, like if you look at stuff like baby metal, or there's other stuff there. I'm a big fan of X Japan,
Oh,
and
cool.
all that era that were very eccentric but still playing heavy metal, or more hardcore punk, whatever it was. But
Mm.
there were no problems in mixing stuff. And here in the West, we seem to have an issue is heavy metal is heavy metal. Like, you cannot have anything else like a bit of death metal or anything, because people will look at you like in a different way or something. I don't know if you
Yeah.
feel that, maybe I'm just imagining things. I don't know.
No, no, I think you're right, but I mean, in my opinion, I'm no expert, but I think that this actually comes from, I think that there is like a big culture of shame in Japan actually, but that's why in their music it's kind of like so explosive and explorative in every way, because they need that release from the regular life of trying to save face and maintain their social stuff. So I think that in terms of their art and their creativity, it all just comes out as like a massive explosion of everything, and that's kind of what's cool about it. It's just like stuff that we wouldn't have thought about, and they're doing it, sort of thing.
Yeah, I never been to Japan. It's one of the places, like, it's on the bucket list to visit. And the only thing I'm afraid is that I'm going to enjoy it so much that I might want to stay there.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem I had about 3 weeks ago. I came back home and I was so sad to be back. I'm like, oh, now what do I do?
It's
But yeah, I recommend you go though. If you ever get a chance, you should go.
Yeah, I had a friend that I have a couple of friends that's actually been there before, but a girlfriend of mine, she works with a Japanese company, and it's for her, they are so, they really take care of the people, like in the sense when you go there for the first time for representing the company, they'll take you everywhere. And she
Yeah,
was like, no, just let me explore. No, we'll take you, we'll bring you there. And she was like,
yeah,
no, I just wanted time for myself just to relax. And they were just
yeah. I had the same thing. They're almost so welcoming that it becomes invasive.
yeah.
I had the same, like the two guys from my label. I was walking around with a backpack and they kept taking my backpack off and carrying it for me. I was like, no, it's fine. You don't have to. But, I guess it's better to be like that than to be, the opposite. But
Yeah,
yeah.
just leave you stranded, and what
Yeah.
I'm doing. Anyway, and on this record, you got some guests. Obviously, you got Fred from played with you with Dragonforce, is now in Creator, and it was he helped you on some of the songs here. You just took advantage of the time, the free time that you had to just contact the people that that could help you create a better album, so to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I basically, it was almost the first person I thought of was when, in terms of the guitar and stuff, was Fred, but also the other guests. I had a certain sound in my head that I was going for their part. Like, for example, in Dracula X, the solo, I thought whoever plays this solo has to be like an amazing player who's going to do a bit of every technique, and for it to have a slightly neoclassically vibe to it. So I just picked Jackie Vincent straight off the top of my head. And luckily, he's just a person I've been chatting to for a while because I met him on tour. And so the others were kind of the same. It's like, who would do the screaming really well here? And it's like, Ryoji. And it just kind of all came into place. It was trying to match the people with the song kind of thing.
Yeah.
But luckily enough, I knew a handful of people that would do the job really well. And they did.
Yeah, and Ryoji from Eugene, they just released actually the first single from the new album. He's on the first two songs. He was like one of the first that also came to mind when you thought about this record, because
Yeah.
I remember watching Gize before, and and he was awesome, and the band is great. Really, they are really good.
Yeah, no. I love him and the band. I've known them for quite a long time now because they supported us in this one random show that we played in Taiwan. They were the support acts for us, so I got talking to him there, and yeah, I really like Ryoji's playing, both guitar and singing, and he also plays a lot of like traditional Japanese instruments as well. So I thought he was like a really natural choice to bring in some of those cool elements from Japanese music. So yeah, he was probably the second person I contacted basically, and being good friends, he was really happy to come on and do it because I actually also sang on his previous album, so we kind of have this little thing going. So it worked really well, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. And when you have a guest, obviously you have something in mind. Were all the songs that you had, written, or did you ask normally for the help for the songwriting when it came to guests and everything?
No, so most of the guest stuff was already written for the songs. There were a couple actually that weren't written for the songs. Like the end of Starbound Stories, the guitar solo that's played by Galen. Their solo was just blew anything out of the water that I could have come up with. And so some people brought their own elements to it, but the majority, it was already kind of roughly scripted out what we wanted them to do. Even some of the guitar solos and stuff, it's just like, we want you to play a melody here and then tapping here and then this bit here. But so it was a bit of a mixed bag.
You don't have any problems when you ask someone, play this part and I want you to play a bit like this. They won't tell you like, fuck you, if you want me to play, I play my way.
Yeah, well, actually, there was a bit of a process of navigating through that, but not with any of the guests that are on it. But there were a couple of other people I asked, so I was like, this isn't quite what I wanted. but that was the thing actually with Sue from Galnerius. I really didn't want to tell him what to play, because I was like, I love his playing. But at the same time, I already had in my head, like, this song would work perfectly with this. So he took a rough solo we had going on and just made it his own, which was really cool. So that worked really nicely.
Yeah. And you also, did a thing in singing Japanese on the last song. Was it hard for you? How did, that came about? Especially, let's talk about, writing the lyrics and all that. I know Marty Friedman can speak Japanese and, is very fluent, but, I don't know if you have like a history or a base or a study on it. So just guide me a bit through that.
Yeah, no, I don't really have any background knowledge of Japanese. I've just managed to say basic stuff, and then I've previously learned quite long speeches to say on stage. So I'm quite familiar with how the language sounds, but in terms of actually knowing what I'm saying, no, I have no idea. So with this song, I wrote the lyrics in English, but not perfectly, because I knew they weren't going to translate anyway. So an approximation of what I wanted the song to be about, basically. Then I had it translated, and then I asked some Japanese friends as to, is this rhyming correctly? Does this sound right? And they kind of iteratively made the final result, but changing little bits here and there. But the really difficult thing was actually getting the pronunciations correctly, because obviously having it written down is not very useful. So I had a friend basically recording vocal messages through WhatsApp, like line by line. And then I was sending back like the isolated vocals, and they were saying, oh no, this bit's wrong, this bit's wrong. So yeah, it took forever, but apparently it's very convincing though. The people that have heard it. So I'm like, yeah, cool.
So it was one of those that you had to sing almost word by word to be sure that everything was, as on point as possible.
Yeah, that's it. And there were a lot of times where, to me, it sounded the same. Like, I'm singing this exactly how you're saying it in the message. And they're like, no, it's different. Like, languages have those things where people are really picky about, it doesn't sound right. So I kind of had to think like a Japanese person and sing a bit differently and make it happen. But it was really cool though. It was really fun. But it was a lot more work than every other song in terms of the vocals.
Yeah, I know, like I mentioned Next Japan, and, sometimes they have like words in English or something, during the songs, or the chorus is in English or something, but all the rest, I just, I wish I knew what were they
Yeah.
saying. I just because it's actually it sounds nice. To the ear, the melodies and everything that they do. It just sounds so good that I wish I could learn. And I remember Queen. On the Day at the Races, they had the song Teotoriati, which had parts in Japanese as well. And,
Oh.
I thought like it was, I don't know if Freddie Mercury did the same as you did. They didn't have WhatsApp back
Or he did it over an actual phone. Yeah.
then. Probably. And I think it's just great. And, how long did it take for you to finish the whole records?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it was finished around about 2.5 years, maybe, which is a long time. But I think that yeah, there's a load of other stuff that you have to tag onto the end. Like once you've actually finished the album, it doesn't mean it's going to come out the next day. You then have to you obviously get a record label and go through all that process and do music videos and stuff. So I think it was about 2.5 years to do the recording part. But I was also having to tour with Dragonforce and do some Dragonforce recordings and some other projects recordings as well. So that delayed it a little bit. But yeah, probably 2.5 long ass years.
So now you have the album in your hands and the reactions have been out. You're happy with it? Was there anything that you would like to change?
Honestly, no, I don't think so. And I'm really happy with the feedback that I've had so far. But one thing keeps making me laugh, and that's like how many people. So it seems like the reactions are divided in two. People saying, "Oh, it's so catchy, it's so uplifting, it's so blah blah blah," and then other people just basically saying, "This isn't metal. What's this bullshit?" So, like, I'm finding the feedback quite funny because I actually didn't really think about that. That yeah, it's being released on Napalm, and it's not metal as such, but it's not. So like those comments are kind of valid, and that I didn't set out to create a heavy metal album anyway. But I just thought it was quite funny. But yeah, I'm really happy with the feedback, and I don't think there's anything I'd go back and change. But maybe I'd do a few more heavier bits in the next album, just for a bit of contrast. But I felt like there was enough on this album already. But maybe I shouldn't bother reading YouTube comments anymore.
That's the worst thing someone can do is just read. It's social media. It's has amazing benefits and everything, but when you get dragged into that hole of comments, especially when it's something that it's controversial, and when you start scrolling, I need to get out of this. I just.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
I'll smash the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny the effect it has on you. It's like, you can for every 10 comments you read that are really nice and positive, the one bad one is the one that I think about, and I'm like, oh no. But
that's the thing. I think it's part of most humans. It's you can have 100 people saying that it's good, it sounds great, but that one person that doesn't really affects you, and you can really take that at heart and pay more attention to that than to everything else. That's it. How the mind works. Fucking crazy.
Yeah, I'm trying to just think of the positive stuff, but to be honest, none of the negative stuff is insulting the music. It's just insulting the fact that it's not metal. So it's, in my opinion, that's not even negative. But
what is metal?
Well, I guess Slayer is what they're talking about. Yeah, not this stuff, the catchy melodies. But no, it's all metal, isn't it? But it's just different subgenres.
Yes. I think, for me, music, music is music in the sense that, you can love classical music, you can love, typical whatever country music, and it's still music. And it doesn't, the fucking thing about labels, it's very annoying for me these days, because I think people get stuck in that. And,
Hmm.
I was, if you go to a festival, you see like they say they show the lineup, and there's always someone that say like, what, that band is not metal enough. I mean, what is that? What is
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't know what is not
Yeah.
metal enough. I don't know.
It's true. It's true. But the question is, are they entertaining enough? Does it really matter how metal they are? I don't know. Yeah.
It's for me. It's it messes my brain in saying I know metalheads. The hardcore diehards. Old school. I'm old, but I'm a bit more open minded. But when they see like a band like Nightwish or something like that, they say that's not metal. I
Yeah.
I just it my heart just sinks. Just,
Yeah. It's stupid, man. Like, and there's so many metalheads out there who, have a brain and they are clever people and they would never dream of saying that. But for some reason, there's still a few lingering on who are just like, I didn't hear a blast beat, so it doesn't count.
and there's guys like that, and I just sometimes I want to tell them, say like, why don't you have long hair then? Why you're not wearing your leather jacket? If you don't think, if you think that's not metal, why you not wearing why your hair is not long? Why you don't smell dirty or something?
Yeah, yeah. Why aren't you sacrificing an animal right now?
Yeah. That's what my grandmother used to think. If you listen to heavy metal, you were just some kind of a drunk, a druggie, or something like that. And
Yeah,
that was the stereotypical heavy metal guy for a lot of people. And you could have a brain, but your appearance was all that mattered to people anyway. And
that's it.
with this record, obviously you're busy with Dragonforce, and you're going to do a tour now with Dragonforce as well. A lot of shows planned. Do you ever think about doing solo shows for this record, or for maybe the next one?
Yeah, I mean it would be a shame to never play these songs. I mean, I would love to play them, but the reality of it is that Dragon Force has got so much stuff coming up. It would be pretty unfeasible to try and squeeze in a show in between tours or something like that. And plus, I need to find the musicians. I would like to put on a good show, not just play in a pub. So, so there's also that, like, and there's obviously money involved with that, and it wouldn't do the album justice to just go somewhere and play a 30-minute set and go, oh, we played it. So if the perfect opportunity came along, maybe, but at the moment there's just too much other stuff I need to do, and I need to keep Dragonforce the priority, obviously.
Yeah. So what are the, music wise for a follow-up record? Do you have many ideas already, in the oven, or what's the story?
Yeah, well, I think we've got about 5 songs that we didn't actually put on the album that were to the point where they were written and fleshed out to some extent with some lyrical themes and guitar solos and stuff. So, I mean, if I wanted to start the second one, I'd have a good starting point already. But at the moment, because Dragonforce are about to go on tour, I'm still finishing their stuff. So I'm kind of like, I don't want to go back to the drawing board again and start this now. It would be much better if I could, get to the point where half of the album cycle is done with Dragonforce and then think about it. So yeah. I'm just trying to, I've got loads of ideas, but I think it's just going to wait maybe 6 months or so.
Yeah. And with Dragonforce, you guys got a new single out, new album in the books. Is it recorded? You guys going to record? Is there if you can speak about it? I don't know if you have,
Yeah, I'm not too sure how much I can say about it, so I probably should avoid it a bit. But I mean, obviously there's a tour coming up and stuff, so it must be nearly finished. But as for the release date and stuff, I have no idea at the moment. So yeah.
But stuff is recorded, at least one single is out already. So we can imagine that there's more than just one song done by
Yeah, exactly.
So what are the plans? The next year just, is going to be a full year with Dragonforce, with festivals and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's looking that way. We've obviously got end of this year. This year we've got the US, then we have Europe next year, and then as far as I'm aware, the summer is going to be full of shows. So I'm assuming festivals, but I can't be too sure. So yeah, plenty of stuff.
Yeah, and just to wrap it up, and we're talking about Dragonforce. How's been your journey so far with the band? I remember when you joined the band. There was a lot of doubts with fans and stuff, but I think you have conquered them and you win them over by now. But how was that journey so far for you with Dragonforce?
I mean, I feel a lot differently about it now than I did back then. So at the time, obviously I was trying my absolute best to win over everybody, and I was never expecting to win everybody over entirely anyway, because you just can't really. Like if people have been listening to 3 albums or however many they had, 4 albums maybe, for 10 years with one singer, as soon as you change, there's always going to be someone that doesn't like you. So you're just kind of stuck. So at the time, I was sort of battling to try and win people over and worrying about people's opinions. But I don't know what happened recently, but now I just don't care. I just don't care at all. So, like, I think I've done enough. Like, I've done all these albums, done all these shows, done my own album. It's like, if you don't like me by this point, then I couldn't give a shit.
After so many years now, it's really pointless. I brought that because, we had someone in common, and I used to talk with him. He's a photographer. He worked with Dragonforce and for a while, and he was talking that it was hard for you, to go on stage and to try to win people over. And I was telling him you shouldn't have any doubts because you're really good at what you do. And, I think the work you did on that first record should be more than enough for the fans to think, it's a great guy that's here. I don't see anyone, maybe there is someone complaining when Iron Maiden changed from Paul Diano to Bruce Dickens. I'm not making that comparison in that sense, but I don't think anyone complains about that, and I don't know.
No, I appreciate what you're saying for sure, and I also feel like I've put in the legwork to have won over some people, but and like nowadays, I really do find that people do like what I do, so that's totally fine. But yeah, it's just there's more to it than just singing. There's also do they like your persona and the way that you address the crowd and all these different things you do, and I think at first when I joined the band, they were trying to push me into being somebody that I'm not. And then over the years, I just kind of decided to be myself on stage. And now I think people like me a lot more because I'm not trying to be like the big rock and roll singer man, because that's not me anyway. I'm more like I'm more English than I was when I started. Like I'm trying not to talk bullshit on stage and just be honest. But yeah, I think people like it.
Yeah, no, I think it worked really well, to be honest. And I will say this now pretty confidently that it was an upgrade.
Cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
In my opinion, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and it's my opinion. It's not worth that much anyway. It's just my opinion, as as everybody else's opinion. It's as relevant in their own bubble, probably. So
yeah. Well, it means something to me, so thank you.
Right, Mark, thank you very much for your time, and all the best for the solo record. Obviously, it would be nice to see if you play these, some of these songs live, maybe when you have the second record. I think probably Japan is a place where you have to start to put on a show for this record.
That would be where I would start for sure.
Yeah, I think that anyway.
Yeah.
So. All right. Cool. Have a great day. Hope to see you with Dragonforce in Portugal soon. It's been a while since you guys last played here. So
yeah, cool.
Bring you guys back. All right.
Yeah.
Mark,
cool.
have a great day. Man. Hope to see you guys soon. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the interview, man. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.